Welcome to Tale Spinners, where we bring stories to life. In this video, we present to you the Dark Mansion. Without further ado, let's begin. It was an old mansion that stood at the edge of town. No one knew who owned it or why it was left abandoned for so long. But there were rumors that it was haunted by the ghosts of its former inhabitants. People said that at night, strange noises could be heard coming from the mansion, and that the windows would sometimes light up with an eerie glow. One day, a group of friends decided to investigate the mansion. They were curious about the rumors and wanted to see if there was any truth to them. They arrived at the mansion just as the sun was setting, and they could already feel a sense of foreboding in the air. The mansion was huge and imposing, with creaky old doors and windows that looked like they hadn't been touched in years. As they walked through the front gate, they heard the sound of crows cawing in the distance, and the leaves rustling in the wind. The mansion was surrounded by an overgrown garden, and the trees cast long, dark shadows that seemed to move on their own. The friends cautiously made their way to the front door, which was slightly ajar. They pushed it open and stepped inside. The interior of the mansion was just as foreboding as the outside, with long hallways, high ceilings, and dusty old furniture. They could hear the sound of their footsteps echoing through the empty rooms. As they explored the mansion, they began to feel like they were being watched. They heard strange whispers and murmurs, and the occasional sound of footsteps that seemed to come from nowhere. But they shrugged it off and continued exploring. As the night wore on, things started to get more and more eerie. The friends could hear strange sounds coming from the walls, like scratching and tapping. They started to see shadows moving in the corners of their eyes, and felt a chill in the air that had nothing to do with the temperature. At one point, they heard a loud banging sound coming from upstairs. They cautiously made their way up the stairs, their hearts pounding in their chests. They found themselves in a long hallway with many closed doors. The banging sound seemed to be coming from behind one of the doors. They slowly approached the door, their hands shaking. When they opened the door, they saw a room that was empty except for a single chair in the center. The chair was rocking back and forth, as if someone had just gotten up from it. They looked around the room, but no one was there. They started to feel like they were in a nightmare, and that they couldn't wake up. The night went on, and the friends were getting more and more scared. They heard the sound of footsteps following them wherever they went, and strange whispers that seemed to be getting louder and louder. They decided to leave the mansion, but when they tried to open the front door, it wouldn't budge. They were trapped. They tried the windows, but they were all locked from the outside. The mansion had become a prison, and they were the unwilling inmates. They started to panic, their minds racing with thoughts of being trapped in the mansion forever. Suddenly, one of the friends let out a blood-curdling scream. They had seen a figure standing in the shadows, watching them. The figure had a face that was twisted with rage, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. The friends tried to run, but they were too slow. The figure chased them down, and they never made it out of the mansion alive. No one knows what happened to the group of friends that night. Some say they were killed by the ghost that haunted the mansion, while others say they were never seen or heard from again. The townspeople avoided the mansion after that, and it remained abandoned for years to come. But one day, a family moved into the mansion, unaware of its haunted past. They were drawn to the mansion's grandeur and history, and thought they could fix it up and turn it into their dream home. At first, things seemed normal. The family began to renovate the mansion, and it started to look like it might be a beautiful home once again. But as the nights grew longer and the shadows grew darker, strange things started to happen. The family would hear footsteps in the hallway, and doors would open and close on their own. They heard whispers and murmurs, and the sound of objects moving around in the middle of the night. The family started to feel like they were being watched, and that they were never truly alone in the mansion. One night, the family was sitting in the living room when they heard a loud bang coming from upstairs. They cautiously made their way up the stairs, and found themselves in the same hallway that the group of friends had been in years before. As they approached the door that had once trapped the friends, they could feel a strange energy in the air. The door was still locked from the outside, and they couldn't see what was inside. But they knew that something was watching them, and that they needed to leave the mansion as soon as possible. They tried to open the front door, but it was still locked. They tried the windows, but they wouldn't budge. The mansion had become a prison once again, and the family was trapped inside with the ghost that haunted it. As the nights went on, things got worse and worse. The ghost started to appear more frequently, and it seemed to be getting stronger. The family was terrified, and they knew that they needed to find a way to escape before it was too late. One night, the family decided to make a run for it. They gathered their belongings and headed for the front door. To their surprise, the door was unlocked. They quickly ran outside, not looking back. As they stood outside the mansion, they could feel a sense of relief wash over them. They were free from the haunted mansion, and they could start a new life elsewhere. But as they walked away, they could still hear the sound of footsteps coming from the mansion. They knew that the ghost was still there, waiting for its next victims. The family never went back to the mansion again. They sold it to a local developer, who turned it into a tourist attraction. But the mansion remained haunted, and the ghost that lived within its walls continued to terrorize those who dared to enter. And so, the dark mansion remained a place of fear and dread, a reminder of the horrors that can lurk in the shadows. Years went by and the mansion became known as a place of legend, a popular spot for ghost hunters and thrill seekers. But the locals knew better than to enter the mansion, and they warned outsiders of the dangers that lurked within its walls. One day, a group of teenagers decided to sneak into the mansion, eager to explore its dark secrets. They had heard the rumors of the haunted mansion and wanted to see if they were true. As they made their way through the mansion, they could feel a sense of unease in the air. The mansion was even more decrepit than before, with cobwebs covering every surface and a layer of dust so thick it made it difficult to breathe. They explored the dark, musty rooms, careful not to make too much noise. But as they turned a corner, they heard a loud bang coming from upstairs. They froze, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, the door at the end of the hallway opened, and a figure appeared. It was a woman, dressed in a long white gown, her hair wild and unkempt. She glided towards them, her eyes fixed on the teenagers. They tried to run, but the woman was too fast. She grabbed one of the teenagers by the arm, her grip like ice. The other teenagers watched in horror as the woman pulled their friend towards the door at the end of the hallway. The teenagers tried to follow, but the door slammed shut behind the woman, trapping their friend inside. They could hear their friend screaming, begging for help. The teenagers knew they had to find a way to rescue their friend. They searched the mansion for a key to the locked door, but they couldn't find one. They tried to break the door down, but it wouldn't budge. As the night wore on, the teenagers could hear strange noises coming from the room at the end of the hallway. They could hear the sound of footsteps and whispering, and they knew that something sinister was happening. As the sun began to rise, the door at the end of the hallway creaked open, and their friend stumbled out. They could see that their friend was pale and trembling, their eyes wide with fear. The group of teenagers left the mansion, shaken by what they had seen. They knew that the mansion was truly haunted, and that the woman in white was a real and terrifying presence. From that day on, the legend of the haunted mansion grew even stronger. People spoke of the woman in white who haunted the mansion, and of the teenagers who had narrowly escaped her clutches. But the teenagers who had experienced the horror of the mansion knew that it was more than just a legend. They knew that the ghostly presence within the mansion was real, and that it was something to be feared and respected. And so, the dark legend of the mansion continued, a warning to those who dared to enter its haunted halls. Thanks for watching Tale Spinners. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe for more fantastic storytelling.